Good evening, good morning, good day, wherever you're dialing in from. My name is Joshua. Nice to see most of you again. Today's session is about liberating structures as well as about visible thinking and just generally structured dialogues and structured approaches to creating deeper conversations. If you filled out this thing in the chat bar, which is the Think, Puzzle, Wonder, what do you think about this topic of liberating structures, structured dialogue? What questions or puzzles do you have about it? And what does the topic make you want to explore? Congratulations, you've actually just done a visible thinking routine. Think, Puzzle, Wonder is one of the Harvard visible thinking routines. You've all done some of these before. If you've ever used Think, Pair, Share in your workshops, you've done a visible thinking routine. So these are not something that are completely brand new to you, but we're going to dive a bit deeper into the why we use them and how potentially we could use them a bit differently, as well as getting to try them on. Again, briefest introduction, since most of you have met me before. My name's Joshua, originally from Hawaii, long time ago. If you're also from Hawaii, you are my favorite person because there's not that many of us. But I've been outside the States now for about 20 years, based in Hong Kong now, but I actually spent the most time living here in Korea. Fun, when I did a workshop in Australia on this, I asked what country in Asia this was, and someone raised their hand and they go, I know, that's Africa, which is neither a country nor in Asia, so, you know, close enough. So I was based in Seoul, based in Hong Kong now. Last year, mostly doing this on the corporate space. Let's see, for the last 12 years, we worked mostly with Fortune 100s. Last year, did this in 24 countries, but honestly, that is enough about me. I actually want to start a conversation with all of you. And we're gonna dive right in, no messing around. Very, very quickly, I'm actually going to take us on a quick little tour of a Miro draft board. Now, for those of you who are absolutely terrified of Miro or Miro, don't worry, we're using it much less this time, but I am trying to preach and convert everyone over to using these virtual boards in the background. So I'm gonna take us all over there. We're gonna try a couple things on, and then I'm actually gonna throw you into a conversation, okay? So, step one, and do feel free to come off mute and yell at me anytime. Oh, we got 57 people, that's awesome. Oh, you can't turn off self-view liming because you're using a tablet. I'm so sorry. I didn't actually know that about that. So in the chat sidebar, I have put a link. I put a link. Step one, all I would like you to do is to follow that link and do nothing after you've followed it. That's step one. So just click on the link. Super easy, click on the link. I'm gonna do the exact same thing. Click on the link. Share my screen really quickly so that we can actually see that. All right, I see people showing up. We have 43 people. Oh, hey, we got better since yesterday. This is awesome. So yesterday when we did this, it took us like 3 minutes to get over here. Now we actually have 45 people already here. If you were here yesterday, you recognize this. This is just a little quick 3-minute warm-up. I just want to make sure that everyone has familiarity with the tools. Normally what we would do in a workshop, if I was doing this live with my participants, is we would send them a board like this to begin with a couple of little assignments. We'd also send them a video link that shows them how to do this. If we were really concerned, we would actually do a little pre-session meeting just where we show them the tools. And the reason we love using this, it enables us to do a lot of interesting visible thinking. Right now though, just want to really quickly do a walk through the tools. Showing and hiding others, let me show you. If I click on this little thing, it's going to show me that, wow, there are a ton of people here. And what's kind of fun, because it's my board, I can actually bring everyone to me, gather you together. But I just want to hide everybody. So there we are. It's all hidden, shown, hidden, simple as that. Zoom in and out. Now, there's a lot of ways to do that. If you've got a trackpad, you can, of course, just use that. You can go down to this bottom right-hand corner and slowly do it. But for most of you, if you don't have a great trackpad, the easiest way is honestly just the plus or minus button. It's a really quick way to zoom in and out. It works quite well. So that's step one. Step two, could you please just paste a sticky note somewhere on here? How do you do that? Over here on the left, you see a bar. Hey, people are fast. Just click on the bar, grab any color sticky note you like, whatever your favorite color is, stick it out here. Coolness, you're all good on that. Awesomeness. Cool, we got all the sticky notes. Try not to cover the directions. I can move you if you do, but Chunchek, always writing squish. Thank you, Chunchek. I appreciate that. Cool, so you're good there. Next up, please resize it. Make it tiny. Don't make it giant. We don't need it to be giant. Please make it tiny. So just make it a little smaller. Resize it. So just grab a corner and resize it. Super simple and easy. Next up, type on it. You're good. Just type anything you want. Type your name, type squish like Chunchek did. Hello, is it me you're looking for, Joshua? Yes, it is, apparently. Thank you for that note, whoever wrote that. Who is that? I have no idea. Anyways, thank you for writing that. Bonus, type without a sticky if you want. So if you want to type without a sticky, it's that little typing thing on the side. So I can just type there and I can type whatever I want. Same with everything else. I can resize it. Again, it's just that little typing thing on the side there. Super, super easy. And someone always clicks on create a frame. Don't worry if that was you, it's fine, because it's really easy to get rid of. I'm just going to click on it and get rid of it. Copy paste your sticky note. So just copy any sticky note, copy. That's Control C or Command C, and then Control V or Command V. You're all done. Good there. Super awesome. Now, super serious. I want you to lock your sticky note. Command or Control L. So click on it, and now it's locked. Once it's locked, you'll see like, look, this ASB one, I can move it everywhere. Whoever ASB is that Audrey? I'm moving your sticky note. I'm so sorry. But if I Control L, instantly it's locked and it's not going anywhere. Oh, there's the smiley face on it. Awesome. Cool. So locking protocol. We are going to go to another board in a moment. Please do not unlock anything. Please do not unlock anything. That's my big request, okay? Please don't unlock things. If they're locked, keep them locked. By the way, if you're terrified about participants unlocking things, one, just trust them. That's what Tyagi said in a workshop I went to him. He said, just trust your participants. Two, if you're really worried, you can always use Mural, which is a competitor to Miro, which has more fine-grained locking. It's just not as pretty. Next up, please draw something. So there's a little pencil icon to the left. Just draw whatever you want. Little pencil icon to the left, draw something. Yay, you guys are awesome. And now I want you to undo it. How do you undo your last thing? Control or Command Z, and boom, it goes away. In fact, I'm gonna make everything I've done disappear. It's so sad, so depressing. It's all gone. Whoa, that was big. Cool. That's it. You guys have all the tools that we need to actually work with today. In fact, we're gonna be even easier today. So I'm gonna ask you to leave that Miro board. It's fun, I'll leave it open. You can play with it later. It's a nice tool. But the reason I do that is because otherwise people, when we first go into the first activity, there's at least 5% of people who are like, this is a terrifying space. I do not know how to deal with it. So please don't worry, just relax. We're going to a very safe space. I'm going to actually be putting you into breakout rooms with groups in just a moment. And in your rooms, you're going to have just 3 or 4 participants, okay? Totally random, 3 or 4 participants. Now, let me explain what's going to be happening in this room. We're going to start off just with a simple, structured conversation. Nothing more complicated than that. A simple, structured conversation. Not on here, because this is pure chaos, beautiful chaos, but it's pure chaos. We're actually going to be using Boink. Let's have a conversation. You're gonna see this in just a moment. I'm gonna give you the link in just a moment. Oh, did somebody already make it here? That's impressive. And you're going to see at the top of your breakout room a number. That number is the number you should go to on here. Follow the number that's on here. So if I'm in breakout room 1, I'm gonna zoom in to number 1, okay? And very, very simple. With your partners, all I want you to do, just for about 8 minutes, just practicing this out, getting the conversation going, I would like you to have a structured conversation. Simple as that. So all you have to do is take a card, ask the question that's on the card. When you're done with it, move it to the done pile. Done with it, move it to the done pile. So just stay at your location. Please stay with your partners at your group and have a conversation for about 8 minutes. Just take turns, ask follow-up questions. If you don't like a question, skip it. Does that make sense? Everyone, it's pretty clear? Super fantastic. All right, I'm gonna recreate the breakout rooms. Just make sure we've got it. Cool, cool, cool. Awesome, all the breakout rooms are created. Let me just give you the link. Wow, Robert, that was incredibly fast.
I just
did that.
link? That's the new link for Let's Have a Conversation.
Oh, wow, that was incredibly fast. All right, so that is the new link for Let's Have a Conversation. So if you could please click on that link, click on that link. Now, don't worry if you lose the link. If you lose the link, when you go to your breakout room, click on the chat button at the bottom of the breakout room, and this link will pop up again. You can go to it. I'm gonna send you to your breakout room now. introduce yourself to your partners, say hi, go to the correct table, the one that matches your breakout room number, please, and start having a conversation. Simple as that. Follow the cards, have a conversation. See ya. So welcome back. That was, of course, just a very, very brief structured conversations. And I do believe that good structures create good discussions. Good structures create good discussions. Any thoughts on that? That was the most basic thing. That's not even a liberating structure. That's not even visible thinking, but it's just beginning to, in the most basic way, look at how we can structure conversations. I do a lot of storytelling training. And one of the most powerful ways that we can actually get the storytelling conversations going is simply to ask better questions. Anecdote, which is a really great storytelling company. I think we have someone who's Anecdote certified in the room. Do we have any of the Anecdotes? Anyways, Anecdote's an amazing storytelling company. They have a free book actually, which has nothing but story prompts that are categorized into different things in leadership things. If you put those in front of a group that is completely quiet will suddenly become the noisiest group just by giving them a good question. It's amazing the freedom that good questions create. It gives people permission to go past small talk beyond these silly little conversations we often have. Hey, how's the weather? It's fine, good. So I'm actually curious your thoughts on that. If you could just raise your hand virtually, physically. So if you want to raise your hand, it's on the participant. Or physically, Carrie, yes, that works. Carrie, what are your thoughts on that? Oh, you're on mute. Apologies.
It was actually really good. It moved very quickly into hearing about the experiences of others in the room, which was terrific. And we all had a bit of a laugh and a giggle. And I think for most of us, we're all able to relate to the various stories that came up as we worked through that. It was great.
And that's the idea. So that's actually the deck itself for that so Teresa, we'll be sharing all these links and resources later. That deck that you were just using, those are screen captured from one that was actually put by, who's the company that put it out? I'll put the link up. The reason we're able to use it is they Creative Commons licensed that deck. So that's not us like stealing some secret conversation deck. That one, it's a deck of really good conversations and it's free. My favorite deck is actually the Holstein deck, but that is actually one you got to buy. So I'm not going to go and I'm not going to be naughty and start screen capturing that one. But it is, I love these structured conversations. Who else has got a hand up? Who else has got a thought on how that went? Yes, Grace, what's up? Hey, Paul, good to see you again. Grace, you're on mute, Grace. There we are.
Yeah. Okay. It was really good. We lost quite a lot of members only because there was only 2 of us.
Oh no! Yeah, we did have some tech issues, but people came back in now. Sorry
don't worry,
about
but I think it was good. I use dialogue cards myself, physical dialogue cards in my own training. But in this case, we connected really quickly because of the conversation we established that we the members in my group happen to be Basu, and it's just that our job, our as a kid and things like that, the commonality was so quickly connected that we felt that hey, we're on the same frequency, and it's like we know each other already because we happen to speak in the same language. I thought that was amazing. The ice was really quickly broken.
Exactly, and that's really the point. We talk always about Zoom fatigue, where people just are doing everything in Zoom. Using some sort of structured conversation is one of the fastest rituals in a workshop that you can use to break people out of their previous space and actually take them into a new space. Usually what we do with the guided conversations is it starts with some of these more general ones to break the ice a little bit, but then it gradually goes deeper in the deck. It goes towards the conversations that are more focused on the topic that we're actually discussing that day. So rather than me coming in and starting to lecture people on it, we actually have them uncover the conversation themselves a bit more organically. It warms them up in a really, really powerful and easy way. By the way, if you're on this, so there's 56 people in the room. As Robert pointed out in the chat bar, I might not be able to see you physically raising your hand. So if you want to use the virtual hand raising thing, that's on the participant thing. If you click on there, there's a little thing at the bottom that lets you raise your hand on the participant thing. You'll probably want to do it there. Not because I don't like physical hands. I love physical activity, but it's a little tricky to see people. Okay.
And even in the participants box, we may not see it because it's so many people. So yeah, point it out in chat.
Robert, your only job is to look up and down that box and see if a hand is raised. You've got one job.
That's
One
constant,
job,
constantly
producer.
up and that's not going to work.
Well, that's your job. Make it work. It's going to happen. So have a good producer like Robert. That's the secret. All right, let's dive a little deeper into this. Any other thoughts before we dive deeper? I'm not seeing any hands up. Okay, we're golden to dive a little deeper into this. So this is really what we're talking about today. That was the world's shortest introduction to it, but it's just really this idea of, oh, I'm going to adjust that so you can, oh, I went the wrong way. It's this idea, why do we like structures? Just looking briefly at visible thinking and liberating structures, what are they if you're not familiar? Try a few on. You've already done 2. And also, we'd love to hear about what other tools, what other structures, your ideas that you could share with the group in terms of what to bring to the table, okay? The reason why we like them, it's simple. We've already started talking about this. Liberating is an apt term. We hear the word structure and liberating, it doesn't necessarily go together, but they really do just that. By having that structure, it removes stress. If I ask you, what do you think about the world? Those big open questions, a lot of people panic and freeze up. But if you give people sentence starters, if you give them the scaffolding to work with, they suddenly are freed and it gives them permission to think differently and speak differently. It's, for example, many of you are probably familiar with like De Bono's 6 thinking hats. We use those in a lot of places, for example, where speaking up in a meeting is not necessarily a trait that is always admired, and yet those organizations are looking to get people to speak up. If you take a normal quiet meeting and you suddenly give someone that hat where their hat is to be the devil's advocate, you'll see the person who's completely quiet, so silent, doesn't want to say anything, suddenly have a ton of things to say. Structures and roles give people the freedom to say things that they might not naturally say, to veer people away from the small talk. It creates that deeper dialogue. It gets us unstuck as trainers. All of you use structures. Every single one of us as a facilitator, we use structures. The problem is we have a tendency to use the same 3 or 4 structures again and again and again. We all know that we get stuck. So there are too many structures out there, definitely. I'm not suggesting you do a new one every single time, but it's really good every once in a while to come back in and refresh it and really look at the power of it. For me, the thing that hammered this home was the GROW model, like the GROW coaching model, for example. Can you raise your hand if you know what the GROW coaching model is? I'm guessing most people do. If not, world's briefest intro. GROW just stands for what's your goal? What's your reality? So what do you want? But where are you now? What are the options and obstacles? So, the pros and cons kind of thing. And then ultimately, what's your choice the way forward? This is not a coaching session. I'm not going to dive into the GROW model. But the first time I heard the GROW model, when I was quite a few years younger, I was like, hey, bullshit, that's never going to work. Yeah, it does. It actually works really, really well. And it's always shocking to me. It's one of those things where that's one of those things that converted me to completely believing in structures that work well, is just seeing people try it on. So when I do coaching training sessions where we're training people, managers who have always been managers, where they're just telling, you have them follow a GROW coaching model. And within 10 minutes, by the end of it, they're really skeptical at the beginning. But by the end of 10, 15 minutes, they're going, wow, that was a really different conversation than I've had before with them. And you just sit there going, yeah, it is. It uses time well, and these structures can be mixed, combined, matched, all that kind of stuff. Super simple, super easy, and they go super deep. We're going to dive into another one. As it says right here, we're going to be trying these throughout the day. Before I dive deeper into this, I would actually like to toss you into another one really quick, this time in a pair. Listen, though, you've done these many times already, I'm sure. You've done think, pair, share, 1, 2, 4, all. What, so, what, now, what. You've done all of these before. But I do actually want to do a really quick one with you called See, Think, and Wonder. This is from Project Zero. Now, I'm going to give you more of an introduction of these in a moment, but we're going to do a Project Zero one right now. Can I please ask you now, actually, I'm going to have you stand up. I'm going to give you exactly 2 minutes. I would like you to find an interesting object in your house, in the room you're in, that has some sort of meaning to you. You've got exactly 2 minutes. Find an object in your house that has some sort of meaning to you. You got 2 minutes. Doesn't have to be far away. It could be right next to you. We're not looking for the Holy Grail. We're not looking for, anything you like. Could be a photo, could be food, could be an object. I like Nuri's object. All right, you got your object. Just another 1 minute. Another 1 minute for your object. All right. You don't have to show me. You're actually going to, in just a minute, what's going to happen is I'm going to pivot you out, and you are going to be getting with a small group of partners. So let's see if I did this correctly. Hopefully this is going to work. Should be about 2 or 3 people in each room, 2 or 3 people in each room. Hypothetically, every once in a while, if someone's dropped off, it won't work. I can move you if that happens. So what's going to happen is you're going to go into the room, and I'd actually like you to hold this up for your partner. So hold it up to the screen for your partner, really simple. And this is actually from, again, Harvard's Visible Thinking, Project Zero. It's these series of thinking structures. This is a simple one. It's all about structured dialogues. What do you see? Your partner's holding up something. What do you see? What do you think about it? You know, what does it make you think of? What memories does it evoke? What ideas does it bring forward? I'm terrified by what Gordon's holding up. We're going to find out in a moment what that is. And what does it make you wonder? Ask them some questions. So don't go into storytelling mode right away. Don't do show and tell. Get your partner to actually see, think, and wonder about it, and have a little dialogue. This is going to be a little short activity. Thank you, Robert. What do you see? What do you think about? What does it make you wonder? Don't worry about these questions because they are in the chat bar again. They are in the chat bar again. I'm just giving you about 5-6 minutes for this. It's just 2 little short things, really, really quickly talking with your partners, but it's giving you a good chance to actually do this. Also, if you have extra time, do feel free to introduce yourself. All right, sending you out to the room now. So hope you enjoyed that one. That is, again, just see, think, and wonder. Any thoughts on that? If you could virtually raise your hand, because we have more than one screen. Again, at the bottom, it should be a little thing that says raise hand. If anyone can raise their hand and just tell me any, oh, I see, Nurul, yes. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's a very good exercise. I kind of enjoyed it. I just realized the second and third questions, you know, when we ask, we sort of get the same answer. How do we manage that, you know? Maybe sometimes when we ask, we intend it differently, but when people answer, they give the same answer, more or less. So how do we manage that? That's my question.
No, that is a good question. So I just went with the basic structure. So that see, think, wonder that I put across there, that was literally, not hypothetically, I literally copied that from the Harvard Visible Thinking website because I'm trying to follow their core structures today. But my honest approach there would be to actually have people come up with their own questions as well. So to use those as starters, and then usually at the bottom I have ... Okay, what are the 2 questions that you have that you would like to follow up with? So I really do believe in relying on the learners to go beyond the structure as something that we can lean on. Anybody else? So Nurul, that is an excellent question. Anybody else have a thought, a question, or something along those lines that they would like to go into that? And silence fills the room.
Well,
this is our.
I like the fact that it forces you to listen first.
Yeah, that's intentional. That's extremely intentional. It's designed to actually get people into a listening phase first. There's something similar in Liberating Structures, which is all about, what is it? I think it's heard, seen. It's called HSR. I forget the exact one. It's one of the liberating structures. It focuses on that thing where you specifically have to be in a listening mode first rather than the jumping in mode. Excellent. Anybody else? No? Oh, yes, Paul, what's up?
This is more of a comment or maybe add-on. Curiosity is one of the main drivers for strong teams. And this exercise, the way it was set up, it literally drove curiosity. Okay,
exactly.
So it's for me, it's really good for doing that because just by looking at what Nurul showed me, who was my partner, I said, my goodness, now I started wondering about so many things about her. Okay.
That's true. That is exactly true. And that is the whole point so today, again, this is not an innovation training today. This is not an influence training today. What we're doing is we're just trying on different structures and seeing what we as facilitators can provoke. And this is really kind of the point I'm trying to get to, Paul, is that you can provoke conversations by putting in place structures and then allowing the participants to fill in the structures in a way that creates that meaningful conversation rather than us imposing bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. Trust on your users, trust on your learners to fill in 70, 80% of the content for the session. You provide that 20% structure, which is really powerful, but you can direct this in any way you want. You can get people to unpack conflicts, to problem solve, pretty much anything you want. It's really, really powerful in this sense. We got one from Doreen. I know this is a separate topic. I'm curious. What does Joshua do, have his slides do as his virtual background? Actually, no, Doreen, that's fine to ask because it's a very popular question each time. And I wanted to have, so don't feel bad about that. That's actually a good thing. We're recording this and I want to have the answer to this question on it at least once in every one of these videos because it's really helpful, especially if people didn't only watch one of the videos. So the virtual, I'm using virtual backgrounds. All I've done is I created a PowerPoint, actually a keynote. I exported to image and I stuck it as my virtual background. And I'm literally clicking on the virtual background selector and I'm selecting different images. That's all I'm doing. It is why we do have, yes, Robert's got a video on how to do it as well. So we have in our tutorials, we've got a video of it. I would like to make a note that I'm being slightly lazy. You notice all my bullet points are coming out at once. If I was really, really, really being a good facilitator, I would create a build for each one of those. But oh, hell no, I'm not going to click that many times. That's just so much clicking. You can also use Prezi, you can use OBS, all that. So yes, we will be sending the recordings for all 5 sessions this week to everybody. So we'll be putting that link out to everybody. Okay, excellent. So let me just give you a little brief tour of some of this stuff, and then we'll dive on into another one of these. So this is the actual Liberating Structures website. Many of you have probably seen this before. If you have not, it is awesome. There's a free app. There's a free Kindle book. Free. We love Liberating Structures because they have the same sort of philosophy we have. Free, free, free. We do love doing that. Each one of these structures goes into a different activity. What's nice is they also have PDFs that help you choose. There it is. That's the one I was talking about, a listening. Heard, seen, respected. That's the last word, respected. I always forget about respect. Anyways, so they have different structures for different things. They've got the whole thing that walks you through. Like, for example, Wicked Questions is a bit of a longer one. And it actually takes you through this. Oh, that's not actually that bad. That's 25 minutes. But it actually takes you through the 5 structural elements that every liberating structure has. So every one is built on these 5 elements: the invitation, how the space is arranged, the materials needed, how participation is distributed, how it's configured, and what the sequence of time is. It walks you through it. It gives you the why, tips and traps, riffs and variations, examples, and even some collateral material. So it actually gives you lots of things to do there. So that's just an example of that. They have a really beautiful Slack community as well that you should join if you're interested in this. It's a great way to think about structured dialogue, especially because it's built on this core menu. Visible thinking, so that's Project Zero. This was actually originally designed, as you can probably guess, this right here, it says by teaching subject. This was originally designed for high school, middle school, etc. But full confession, it is used by a lot of adult educators as well, because it does a really good job of looking at these different core thinking routines, routines for digging deeper into ideas, introducing and exploring. The entire purpose of this, again, is just simply to get you as a facilitator looking at structures beyond, all right, go into a breakout room, discuss, come back, present it to me. Maybe you merge them, maybe you do that, but it's bare minimalism in terms of what's really possible in generating interesting thought within a short time period, okay? Just 2 last ones just to toss them out to you that we like. We, of course, have the beautiful Radically Remote Facilitation Toolkit. Not a sales pitch, again, this is free. This is the one that we put up there. That has, of course, the classes you all signed up for. It's got our free book. Please download the book. It's free. It's awesome. We have our own Slack channel. Our Slack channel is tiny. Liberating Structures is a much better Slack channel, but feel free to join ours as well. Our course is now live. If anybody actually wants to sign up for it, it's missing 10 videos that I'll be putting up on Sunday, including all of these. But our free course, this is, again, not a sales pitch. This is all free for you. But people keep asking about those technical things. Bob has done an amazing job of doing the tool basics. Every possible thing you might want to do with Zoom, with Prezi, etc., it's all in there. I have gone through with micro lessons on Miro. This is where we're going to have a bunch more. We also have interviews here. We've got my ATD talk. It's all there. It's all free for you to use and access. But on the actual toolkit itself, what we have here is, again, different structures. You can choose by tool, or you can choose by tag. You know, am I trying to do post-session, pre-session, impromptu? You know, what are you actually trying to do? And it's going to give you suggested activities. Click on it. It's going to pop up, and it gives you all the instructions on how to do it, as well as all the links you might need. These can also be found, no, go away, on my favorite website, which is Session Lab. And again, these will all be linked to. Session Lab is an aggregator. So if you know Liberating Structures, they are here. Look at that right there. That's Liberating Structures. They actually have it built in there. Hyper Island is here. But we are here. If you go to most recent, filter by, where did it go? I lost it. Never mind, doesn't matter. Recently updated. That's it right there. By the way, the champion person who's doing this is Robert. He's the one doing all this amazing posting. So we should give a big thank you for Robert for that. But it has, basically it's an aggregator of all these different places. Tiagi's stuff is in there. It's a great way to see everything all in one place. Yes, it is TMI. It's too much information. But as a facilitator, this is a one-stop shop for being able to actually look at these kind of things.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah, what's up?
With our tools on our Knowmium site, we welcome submissions from other people, and we also have a form you can fill out. So we want to give everyone the opportunity to submit, and we give you credit. We'll attach your LinkedIn and name and whatever you want. If you have a great activity we could use virtually, we would love to learn from you and feature it on the website.
Yes, and we encourage you also submit it on Session Labs as well. Share and share alike. We're big believers in sharing. Share things, it's good. So any questions before we dive deeper into another activity? Because I want to try on, we're going to actually go into another one, which is one of my favorite ones called Wise Crowds. Wise Crowds. There's also a smaller version called Troika Consulting. These are both liberating structures. Wise Crowds is a larger version of this. Any questions? And this is one of the liberating structures. I think it's number 13 on the liberating structures. There are 33 of them. They're all labeled. I thought we were going to have Isman in the session. By the way, if you haven't, Isman Tanuri, we linked to him in our website. Raise your hand if you know Isman. I know someone in the room's got to know Isman. Yeah, a couple people. Isman, there, I talked to Martin about Isman. He is a master of Miro, and he is a huge guru in liberating structures as well. He totally knows his stuff there. His sessions are awesome. So take one if you haven't already. All right, so what I'd like you to do now is just for 1 minute, I would like you to think of a challenge that you would like a bit of support or a bit of consulting on. Ideally, we're trying to be, this could be about your life in general. If you want to ask about your pets or your kids, that's fine. But in general, we're talking about the education space here. So thinking about facilitation, training, something in your own training, in your own practice, whether you're working at a university or corporate, whether you're in-house, you're external, what's something within this moving to virtual space that you've got a challenge with? Doesn't have to specifically be about liberating structures, but just a challenge that you would like some advice on, because you're about to get a bunch of advice from some very interesting people. So just take a minute. I'm going to give you a minute to think of your challenge. You can, yes, you can put it in the side chat bar if you want, but keep it in your mind. We're going to go into breakout rooms in a moment. I'm going to give you directions for that in a moment, but I want to give you a moment to think of that challenge. And I'm using that moment to create my breakout rooms. Daniel Stillman, who I quote way too much, he calls this the lazy facilitator trick. If you're not having Robert create the breakout rooms, give people a moment to think about things and then just secretly in the background be doing something.
Well, this is a cool thing to know about Zoom. Unfortunately, only the host has the ability now to create the breakout rooms. The co-host can jump around once they're created, but it's hopefully a limitation that Zoom will fix in the future. Because as a co-host, why can't I have the ability to create and manage those rooms?
Yes, and so you might be wondering, why don't I make Robert host and have him doing all of this? Because with a lot of sessions these weeks, we always talk about believe in being in beta. The vast majority of these sessions, it's the first time we've actually run them with a large group. So this is the first time Robert has seen any of these slides. You are the beta for this version of this little session here, which is why it's always a heck of a lot of fun. I'm a big believer in beta. So let me walk you through the instructions. Again, this is taken directly. And of course, if you can't see that, don't worry. I will be copying and pasting it. Robert, I'm not going to make you retype that. I am actually going to copy and paste that in. Otherwise, that's just painful for you. So what I'm going to have you do is wait for 10 seconds while I copy and paste this, because that's the single most important thing in the universe right now. And you can tell we're really prepared facilitators. Mino, I know you're specifically asking about board games again. Hopefully you get a bunch of good ideas on that. I'm also going to be talking about that a little bit tomorrow in the session, and happy to stick around with you and talk about that because there are ways. Martin also has some cool ideas on how to do board game-based stuff in Miro and Miro, however you want to pronounce it. All right, so I'm putting in the chat sidebar. This is the formula that you're going to use. I'm going to ask you to stick with it. I'm going to ask you to time it yourself in your group. Here's how it's going to work. And I'm going to give you actually about 15, 16 minutes for this. We're not going to have time for everyone to go, obviously, but maybe get at least 1 or 2 people going in your group. So the client presents their challenge and requests for help. The consultants, that's everybody else in the room, ask clarifying questions for 3 minutes. The client then, I'm going to ask you to turn your back. You are literally going to turn your back. We love getting physical. Turn your back to your camera. Don't even look at these people. And the consultants are going to ask questions, offer advice and recommendations, working as a team while the client has his or her back turned for about 8 minutes. And then the client provides feedback to the consultants. What was useful? What are their takeaways for 2 minutes? These timings and these directions are directly from the Liberating Structures site. So we're trying a pure version. Feel free to adjust these, of course, but this is like a purest version of it, just to see how the structured dialogue goes here. All right. Let me just, question?
Yes. So we choose the client?
So one of you is the client. So in your group, one of you goes, I got a challenge, raises their hand, and they are the client. The rest of you automatically are consultants. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Let me see if I can do my math. 2, 3, 8, 2, 10, 15 minutes. So this is exactly a 15-minute activity.
Really quick question in the chat. What's the purpose of turning your back with the sound on or off? That's to clarify, Josh.
Oh, please do have the sound on. Please do have the sound on. It's actually so you can it just gets people into a different mind space when they have to be purely focused on listening. It puts them into a different place. Is the idea behind it. We actually often have people do some things where we have them go back to back, even in a video room, because it causes people to listen differently. Simple as that. You don't have to do this. This is the version from the Liberating Structures website, from their toolkit. If you want to be like, I don't want people to turn around back to back, that's fine. That's absolutely fine as well. But it changes the conversation. When we're back to back, oftentimes we're more direct, we're freer. If we don't have this wall of faces looking at us, sometimes having a wall of Zoom faces looking at us, the eyes all upon us as we're talking about one of our challenges, can be slightly intimidating. So this is kind of a fun way to play with it and to remove that barrier. Any other questions before we jump on out? All right, you've got 15 minutes for this, and then I'm going to show you a couple other things, and then we will close out the session. And we will stick around for half an hour to play around with some more stuff if people are interested. Also going to show you a couple other tools. If you don't want to use Zoom, other tools you can use, and we'll even do more of this tomorrow. Jump on in, check that timing. Again, the directions will be in your chat. Welcome back, everyone. As before, just really quick before we close out the session, because I'm going to show you a couple of other things. Any thoughts on how the WISE crowds work? So that's a liberating structure. It's a very specific process designed to take people to a particular consulting dialogue. Any thoughts on that? If you could just do a virtual raising of your hand. And I know that as a trainer talking about good structured conversations, it's hilarious that my debrief question is, any thoughts on that? Because that is the single worst debrief question on the planet. But it's we're brief, we're almost out of time, and this is a group of facilitators. So I'm hoping I can get away with just saying, any thoughts on that? Luisa, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I was the one who asked you that question about the whole point of turning back, having your back turned and things like that. And well, I ended up being the client, and so I had my back turned, and actually I see the whole point of that, and I really got it, because you had no choice but to have your back turned, within the pad, take notes, really just listen instead of getting distracted by people's body language or the facial expression and whatever.
It is a fun experience.
It is. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was brilliant. Really fun activity. So well done on that.
Oh, thank you. Oh,
Yeah.
well, I can take exactly 0 credit for it. So you can thank the Liberating Structures community. But yeah, so and we're a big believer in bringing physicality into things as well. It's one of the reasons I like that. Oh yeah, thank you. I love that people are posting. Yes, feel free. My question, what do you think about that, is up there in the bad debrief questions. We do have in the chat even worse ones. Robert going, did you like that? Or yes, I do love from Wahab from I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Help me. This is what you learned. Even worse. Or I think even worse than that is just the, okay, next thing we're going to do. Just no debrief at all, where you're just jumping from thing to thing. Oh my God. Debrief should be like, I'm a big believer that debrief should be like 30% of your session should be around the debrief. Like whatever the session is, it's, yeah, anyways. I feel so bad for Anand. Anand has the world's worst internet. They have gotten kicked out like 20 times today. I feel so bad for them. We've all been in that situation. All right, anybody else? Food for thought. If you could raise your hand virtually, what do you think? Virtually or physically if you're on the main screen?
I found it interesting that the physical aspect of the activity, having somebody turn their backs, actually powerfully affects the dynamic. And what is more interesting for me is that it works even over a virtual platform, which is like, but why?
I know it's not logical, but it's just,
it does.
There's, I'm forgetting her name now. I quote her. So tomorrow's thing on physical places and digital spaces, there's this wonderful researcher where she says that we naturally embody a 3D world and we pour that sense of self into the tools we use, even if it's a Zoom. So we just, the way our brains process things, if you give people those physical things, it really is incredibly powerful. It's like, for example, the see wonder thing, I had you physically get an object. Little things like that really do make a difference. There's actually an activity that's very analog called drawing together. That's one of the liberating structures as well. And it's drawing using just a very basic toolkit. Circle, spiral, little star person, literally just using that. And there's a whole series of things where they're combining it to create a narrative of a challenge. Then you're having the other person interpret it. Now, yeah, you could do this in a Miro or a Miro board. If you've been to other sessions this week, you know that I love Miro boards. Trust me, tomorrow we'll be on them again in a very experimental lab. But for very analog stuff, you can also just have them draw it and hold it up to the screen. And it's a really interesting thing to do, or have them screen capture it. Anybody else? Thoughts, questions, etc.? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Okay, Josh. I kept wanting. Sorry, is somebody else? Okay.
Oh no, go for it. It's you.
Go ahead. There were two of us as consultant, and Victor was the client. And when we were giving him advice and suggestion to him, that's me. I kept wanting to say, "Look at me when I'm talking to you." But I have to put up with it, right? So
I love that.
The inside me, I say, I'm a very visual person, and I like to have face-to-face conversation. So when he's back, and I think the impact was also he kept talking, right? So I have to like stop him so that we could, catch up with his conversation. So he's talking in the space, but for me, I keep saying, "Come on, Victor, stop! I want to see. Turn around. I'm talking to you." So
I really need to get the music "Turn Around." I should be playing that "Turn Around." Don't let me sing. It's just terrible. Apologies in advance for that. But no, Grace, that's
showing
really,
your age
in terms
here,
of
Joshua.
Thanks. We'll have a conversation about that later. Anyways, so Lewis, and I think we had, before Lewis, there was, where'd he go? People keep dancing around it. Yes, Maud. And Maud, how do I pronounce it? You got to tell me. How I can do? Nazrin. Oh, just Nazrin. Okay, that's perfect. Oh, is that short for Muhammad?
Yes, it is.
Oh, bloody hell. I was actually trying to pronounce Maud. I'm like, I don't know this name, Maud. Muhammad, I know. Okay, Nazrin.
It's typically what happens in Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia.
Of course. I'm learning new things every day because it's so long that it gets cut off. That makes perfect sense.
They don't do it anymore. They don't do it anymore. It's a remnant of the 70s.
Well, now we know. Now you're dating yourself. So what was your comment? Then I'll go to Lewis.
So what happened was I became the client and I shared a story about what happened before and what's currently happening on virtual, which is a concern. And I already had, actually, I shared it. I already had my answers. I was already mitigating it. But they gave me answers that I never thought about before.
Huh.
So that was very interesting. And a good ego management, because you think you know everything, then other people have other ways, other creative ways of fixing it. And I think it's something that not only is relevant for students, I think all trainers should be able to have a summit like this and just share their knowledge, share their techniques with each other, because that's the only way we can grow. And I love the activity because I physically had my back turned and I was eating a sandwich at the same time.
That's the most beautiful thing ever.
And
well,
I had three beautiful ladies who were in the group with me, and they were just talking.
You had your back turned. You don't know who was in the group with you. Anyway,
I do know now. They were talking behind my back, and it was getting one of them actually said, "Hey, he has a back turn. We can say anything we want." So they just kept going.
So what I love that you guys are all talking about the space dynamic. And Louis, I'm going to put a hold on yours for a moment, just because I do want to do my closing things for 8:30, but I will come back to you after the session's done. So can we give everyone a big clap for today, by the way? Just to give you all a beautiful big clap for being awesome today. Our goal today was actually quite simple. And just to show you a couple of little closing things, there's also like open space things, crowdsourcing. These are all in the liberating structures as well. You can use the co-host trick and a couple other ways to do this. There are also on our kit, there's other apps to explore. You can explore Remo or AirMe. That's another program that lets you move from table to table freely. There's even an app called Circles. There's a Circles platform, and it literally, those are videos of people in a circle, and you move to the center of the space to have a conversation. There's also a local Hong Kong startup called Toasty. You want structured conversations with cards, they actually build the card structures into it. Let's pretend I'm as dashing as that gentleman behind me. But yeah, that's the kind of thing there. And just to close out, what I always close out with actually is I actually like to go back to my my Project Zero structures and my liberating structures. I used to think da-da-da about this topic. Now I think da-da-da. What was important? So what? Why was it important? Now what? What am I going to do next? So these are the kind of things I'd have people think about for a couple of minutes by themselves, give them some time by themselves, and I combine that. So I combine that activity to close out, and I usually combine it with 1, 2, 4 all, and 15% solution. Again, these sound like I'm just naming buzzwords. Each one of those is a liberating structure. 1, 2, 4 all is just you're thinking to yourself, you're having them think about these things up here in terms of the topic for the day. Just imagine you're doing it because we're actually out of time. It's 8:30 now, 8:31. Sorry, I went 1 minute over, whatever. You can leave if you want. Then you pair them off, then a larger group. And what they're discussing and getting advice on is not fixing everything. But it's the thought that I'd like you to leave today. In terms of making your own structures better, what's your 15% solution? Not 100%, not all the way there, but the 15% solution gives you permission to take a first step without having to be perfect. And for me, it's one of the most freeing structures you can use when you're trying to create forward momentum with your participants at the end of a session. That brings us to the end of our session. Thank you very much for being awesome. You guys are great. Big old thumbs up. If you want to stick around and ask questions, I'm here for the next half an hour. Otherwise, have a wonderful day. I'll see some of you in like 12 hours in the morning for the next session. As a note, if you're here for the morning session, that is the experimental lab. Be ready to go into very strange spaces. I guarantee at least 3 or 4 things break tomorrow, but that's on purpose because it's a really fun place to play. Thanks, everybody.
And just a quick note, Martin has his hand up.
Oh, Martin's got to stand up. Hey, Martin, what's up? You're first. What's your question, Martin? I like your new background.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to, how much I learned from just to listen to the questions of the other consultant. That was amazing. Not only listening to the client and trying to think about solutions, but listening to Grace's. I was with Vivian and Grace had so good questions. And I mean, my mind was blown. I would never have thought from that perspective. And now I see, like, as a pair of two, how we liberated each other, because I'm engineering. I was kind of thinking solution steps we can do like this, and Grace added and kind of took us out of that box the whole time. So the combination, I think, was very powerful.
I completely agree. And that, Martin, that is fully the intention. That's why they call it wise crowds. It's this idea that we just don't know everything. That quite simply, people are going to come up with new ideas. It's why, very honestly, in every session I say, sit in, even though I know a lot of us are zoomed out. With all the free webinars, especially not webinars, but with all the free like workshops being given, sign up for as many as possible. Doesn't matter if it's your topic, you learn so much by how different people approach questions. And I love doing that. So I've been having a lot of fun doing that. I actually went to Martin's workshop. So for example, Martin and James Bishop's, which you should sign up for. Go to, if Martin's doing another free one, James is. You will get a link, by the way, with all the videos, with the book if you haven't downloaded it yet. If you haven't, why not? It's free. I mean, come on, it's free. Just take it. The toolkit, as well as the free online class, you'll get a copy of all those things if you don't already have them, access them. Radically Remote's missing like 10 videos. A bunch more are going to be up soon. It's been a busy week. Sorry,
Joshua,
what's up?
So a question from a couple people. Could you elaborate on 1, 2, 4 all?
So yes. So we didn't do that one today just because it's probably something most people have done, even though you didn't necessarily call it that. 1, 2, 4 all. It starts with self-reflective. So basically, you're chilling with yourself. You're taking some notes. You know, we don't give enough time for that oftentimes in our workshops, especially in these virtual ones. We're like, let's go to the next thing, faster, faster, schneller, schneller. You got to give time for that. So it's self. Then you go to a pair, and then that pair merges with another pair for a deeper discussion. How do you do that? As the host, you actually literally take people and in the breakout room, move them into another breakout room. So it does take a little finesse, but you're just moving people into the breakout rooms between them. And then it's just plenary conversation. That's what it means. You're back for plenary.
And another question in the bottom of the chat.
The free resources you'll be getting. Can you just put the Knowmium toolkit up there, Robert?
Sure. And also it says, where do you get the virtual conversation cards?
Oh, you know what? I should actually add that. I may have it up there. It's from Dropbox. That's who did it. Dropbox actually did it. So just type Dropbox conversation cards. Robert's going to remind me to put it up in our toolkit, but it's free. Dropbox, you know, it's one of those things like Mural wrote a really good working from remote guide. Not Miro, Mural did. And Dropbox did a really good conversation cards. I think it's Dropbox. Please be Dropbox. Okay. And yeah, Marshall, Francois, the other link, the link which has our book, our toolkit, as well as you can get the link to sign up for the free class. The free class is also, do you want to just type the Radically Remote link, Robert, if you don't mind? Just copy paste that over there. And that is, it's almost done, 90% done. You can sign up, you can join it now. There's just a little bit left, these videos included. I'm making Lewis wait for it. Lewis, come, where are you? I want your questions. Where'd he go? There he is. I see.
Those liberating structures that you mentioned, there were 33 of them or whatever. Are they all transferable to the virtual environment?
90% of them are. There's 1 or 2 of them where they are translatable to the virtual environment, but it would involve some stuff. Like there's one that involves actual observation. So it's like, you know, like a design thinking session where you'd go out and you'd observe users. Yeah. Yes, you can observe users in a virtual environment. It is possible to observe conversation structures and that kind of stuff there. But that one's harder. So of the 33, I've gone through all of them. I'd say 20 of them, very little effort required. Another 6, 7 of them, a little bit more effort required. You got to think about it, maybe use a different tool. 3 or 4 of them, maybe just wait till we can meet face to face again. But hey, that's 20 tools.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
No worries. Anybody else have a question? I'm just going to sit here and stare at the screen. Actually, I'm going to go to my virtual backgrounds. So this is my secret solution if I just want to disappear and pretend I'm interested.
Your backlight is messing with it.
I know, my backlight's messing with it. That's no. There it is. Look how interested and engaged I am, even if it's not me. That's all right. Too many Joshuas. So who else?
Joshua, I have a question.
Sure, Gene.
Okay.
That's what we're here for.
Awesome. Okay. Towards the end, after 1, 2, 4 all, you flash a couple of screen of softwares that we have online,
yes.
and one is called Circle, one is called Toasty. I didn't quite get it. Could you just go through that again? I mean, perhaps
you bet.
more detail.
So we do link to these in the Knowmium Radical Toolkit. Down at the bottom, there's a whole series of categorized links. All three of those are linked in there. Now, Remo, we also have suggested, other than Remo, we're suggesting them because they're another Hong Kong company. Toasty and Remo are both Hong Kong companies. Hong Kong is doing a lot of interesting stuff in the tech space for virtual conversation. So imagine that. I full note, I'm genuinely surprised by that, but it is awesome. I'm very proud of it as well. So Remo, though, is not cheap, although do the free trial. AirMeet, which is an alternative to Remo, is currently 100% free. So AirMeet's almost the same. AirMeet is slightly glitchier, but awesome. I would consider that still beta-ish. Toasty is extremely solid, and they have a free trial, plus they're cheap, and there's a free version, etc. But Circles is currently free as well, but you got to request it, and they send you a link. It's fun. It's just fun to play with. I'm not suggesting that you suddenly go and move all your training over to these alternative platforms, but it's just fun to experiment with ways of creating interactions from these, and then thinking, how could I recreate this? So like, for example, tomorrow, you're going to see a way that we actually recreate, not that we're trying to replace Remo, it's actually quite nice. We recreate some of the features of Remo using Zoom plus a Miro board, plus some Jitsi rooms. And Jitsi is a free video service. Jitsi, J-I-T-S-I. It embeds easily. We'll look at it tomorrow if anyone's around. Anybody else? It's all the cool people who are left. Although I got to say, Massimo's photo is the best photo. So he actually went out to breakfast. So he's not actually here. He was in the rooms, but he looks very attentive. I think that photo purely looks so attentive. It's like, even if he's not there, he just looks so damn engaged. I feel like he's listening to me. Anybody else? Oh yeah, what's up, Lewis?
There's a question in chat as well about virtual coaching ideas.
Oh God, so many. I'm doing virtual coaching. I would follow up with MW. Where's MW? I'm looking around. I'd be happy to follow up on that specifically. Probably have a follow-up conversation about that, because that's a long conversation. Yes, happy to discuss. If you've got a specific question around that, actually, just feel free to come off mute and ask. Do you have any specific question about virtual coaching? Because we do a ton of it. That's like all my coaching's virtual these days, and 20% of what I do is coaching.
Right. Thank you, Joshua, because you have really impactful ideas, and I was thinking if there's any other ideas that you would want to share that we could easily implement to make coaching sessions more interactive, because usually coaching is quite one-to-one, and yeah, so I'm looking forward to tomorrow's session where we look at space and yeah, that gets them into a sense of just talking to a machine, because we're converting the actual session to a virtual. That's not what we're looking for, but we're thinking of transformation and how do we actually get that done and take it one notch above even face-to-face.
Completely true, and happy to answer some questions about that tomorrow. Hopefully it'll be in the right direction. I'll also be sending out to the team. I got to remember to do this after this. If you haven't read it yet, we did a whole LinkedIn write-up specifically called, surprisingly, Physical Places and Digital Spaces. But also with the coaching, the other thing I would say is that if you're not using some sort of coaching tracking software, now you can build this yourself if you want with like Typeform and stuff. We're using Coach Accountable. It is amazing for allowing us to measure and share things in a way that makes the coaching a separate space. You could do this on an LMS as well. You don't have to do it with a separate app if you want to figure it out and all that kind of stuff. But it is a very powerful thing to be doing. But tomorrow, I'm very, very happy to talk and answer any specific questions on that as well.
Gotcha.
But yeah, no, that's an awesome topic.
Thank you. Thanks.
No worries. Happy to. We'll see what thoughts are provoked tomorrow and see what else we can follow up on. Lewis, you had something.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for technical training, say people who need to be trained on software? Because traditionally, we in a face-to-face, we would have 10 people in a class with their laptops and all of that. Right now, we're just trying to think of a design where we can still have a similar number of people with maybe 2 coaches. Is that even possible? I know Zoom does screen sharing, limited screen sharing, I guess, but you know, there's a limit to their cognitive load, I would presume, of the coaches.
True. So I would go back to that question of really heavily. So if it's process-oriented training, like do this, do that, like how to use Excel. I know your stuff is way the hell more fancy than how to use Excel or how to use PowerPoint. So, but just using that as like a generic example, we would all understand. It's really thinking of what parts can be done asynchronously and what parts need to be done synchronously. So really creating like a teachable or an LMS type thing that takes them through the basic number of assignments, and then interspersing it where there's sessions with Lewis, like small group sessions with Lewis, where they're getting their questions answered, they're getting feedback on stuff. Then they go back and they do like another module on the little LMS thing. So moving a lot of the talk and walkthrough stuff, I would suggest that for a lot of the stuff where you're screen sharing, that could actually be done using Loom. So if you look at the tutorials Robert's made, he's made really good screen shares walking them through. If you put that into an LMS and give them an assignment, have them go through and do the thing in there, then they're coming back and having an actual conversation and feedback with you. They're having to do it live. In fact, what you could do to check them is instead of you screen sharing, you sit back as the coach or facilitator and you actually have them screen share and walk you through it. So basically having them do a teach back. So things like that could be a way to make it engaging and to not just be like talk, screen share, because that a lot of that could be moved to the cloud and moved to the asynchronous. That's my thought, at least. I don't know.
Okay, that sounds interesting. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries.
Quick question, Joshua.
Yes.
One of the things that I often do in my work is I tape out things on the floor and I teach and I put pieces of paper on and I get people to walk around and stand in different quadrants and look at each other and so on and so forth, right? So I'm in the process of translating some of that into activities on Miro. Are you going to cover something like that at some point tomorrow, or?
That is the vast majority of what we are covering tomorrow.
Okay, I'm in. No need to answer anymore. Bye.
that is literally what we're covering tomorrow.
Okay, so now I don't have to think about it.
Some of the stuff will break tomorrow. I promise. It's going to be fun. It's a beautiful, beautiful experiment. It's because it's going to break partially because we're going to have like 60, 70 people in there. If you're doing a normal size session, Francis, you can manage it much better.
I'd rather watch you break it than have it break in my session.
Please, I invite you all to my train wreck tomorrow. Please come join me in my beautiful, beautiful train wreck. I love my beautiful train wreck. It's going to be great.
All right, thanks. It's been an awesome evening. I have to go. Thank you very much, Joshua and Rob.
No worries. The link to the article is in the side chat bar, by the way, in case you're curious. That's the Physical Places, Digital Spaces link. Anybody else have a question? Don't make me sing because it's terrible.
Well, since you don't like silence.
Oh, yeah. I love silence.
Oh, okay. No, I was just checking with you, Josh. I'll be doing my first virtual design thinking course next month. So where would be the good resource to go to where I could like do some of the liberating structure and so forth?
So that's awesome. So did I mention? So were you here for that? There was actually that wasn't you who asked that question last night, was it? I've lost track of the days, or yesterday morning. Sorry.
I think I did.
So did I show, because I don't want to repeat myself
no.
Did I show you? There's the toolkits.
No.
By MW's. There's the tool. So in Miro itself or Mural, they have whole design thinking templates. So I did show that.
Yeah.
The other place I would actually go is we actually have on our toolkit, we have a whole section around innovation training specifically, and we have links that go to Board of Innovation. Now, maybe you already know this, Board of Innovation, as well as Open Innovation. It's a couple different places. And what they have is they have Open Innovation it's literally, I think it's called Open 100 Innovation. It's on the Radical Toolkit. So if you go there and just scroll down, you'll find it. And they have the actual like training structures. They've got it right there. And it converts over. If you combine that with like Miro, it converts over really, really well to design thinking. Eva was in one of our sessions, I think earlier this week. She is she's a great facilitator in this as well. So if you want, I can, let me actually, she would be a good person to follow on LinkedIn. Let me just pull her up, and I will put her in the chat sidebar, because she does a ton of stuff around Agile and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just gonna put her ID up. And she's also super friendly and does free classes and paid classes as well. So totally suggest checking her out, following her, because she'll post her free stuff.
Hey, Joshua.
There's Eva. Yeah, what's up?
I'm gonna exit the meeting if you don't need me. I've got something to come up.
I don't really not need you. I don't want you. No.
I didn't.
Thank you so much, Robert. That was awesome.
Yeah, no worries. I'll see maybe some of you in about 11 hours.
Exactly. Or at the ATD conference tonight, because Robert's going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the love? Where is the love? And now we are 16, including Leia. Yes. What's up, Lewis?
Just wanted to find out the latest update of Zoom. You were saying that the co-hosts have some problems carrying the breakout function, is it?
Yeah, so the co-host trick, it wasn't removed, but they changed the way it worked. So it's not that it does work, but it's slightly more annoying in terms of the user interface for it. So you can move, co-hosts can move from room to room, but to move from room to room, you always have to go back to the original room where you started. That's true of the host as well. So I used to be able to do rotations where I could go from this room, then to this, then to this, and I never had to go back to the main room. Now, even as the host, I have to go back to the main room. Co-host, like if I started you as a co-host in room 12, you would have to go back to room 12, and then you could go out to any room. So it's like, we call it a touchback. So basically for the co-host trick, it's added a touchback. It is super annoying. We've given feedback to them about that. We'll see if they fix it. Who knows? There is a workaround we're gonna look at tomorrow that some people will love and some people will hate with a passion. It's good fun. It's a very polarizing session tomorrow. It's also one of my favorites.
I just wanted to comment on the design thinking thing that was mentioned.
Oh, yeah. If you got some ideas, please share.
Site called Duarte. She does a lot of presentations, Duarte. And
Nancy Duarte, Duarte Design. She's great.
They gave a very nice webinar and an article on how their groups do visual collaboration with Miro. So you might want to check out that article because they have that process where the client to brainstorm, inspire them, use Miro, and then give feedback on the prototypes on Miro itself, build and all of that. So that was quite an interesting article on their blog, and they have a YouTube channel.
Incredibly awesome.
So you can check, you can check the YouTube channel and have a look at that one too.
Yeah, I'm going to put her name in the side chat bar. So full confession, Nancy Duarte was one of my role models when I was first entering the presentation space. Slideology is one of my favorite books, along with like Gar Reynolds' Presentation Zen. Like I'm talking about like 15 years ago when I was like getting into this space. So I followed her. Like I've taken Duarte classes. I've gone through some of them. I have not been like religiously following her the last couple of years. I had no idea they'd gone into like Miro and design thinking. That is super cool to know. I got to go loop back in. Yeah, anything Duarte does is going to be extremely high quality. So thank you, Lewis. That is actually super awesome. I put her name in the bar. Just type Nancy Duarte. She will be the first thing that pops up. She is the single most famous presentation design company on the planet by far. They only have one book that's not good. They have 4 books. 3 of them are amazing. One of them, the most recent one, maybe they rushed it for a publisher. But buy the first 3. Slideology, Resonate, and whatever comes after that. There's something else. Then the most recent one, it was like, so. But wow, that's so cool. She's doing Miro. What? Pardon?
They had a leadership storytelling one that was quite good. Leaders telling stories.
I haven't seen that one. I have to take a look at that one.
Joshua, did you try Remo and AirMeet, and how did that go? Like what was your experience there?
So I've used them. Yes, we have tried Remo and AirMeet. I have an AirMeet account. Remo, I don't spend I'm just not going to use it enough to justify $50 a month. If I was truly going to, as a facilitator, if I was going to do a lot of sessions using Remo, $50 would be a drop in the bucket if I was going to do a lot of sessions on it. Like, for example, I have a WebEx Training Pro account. That is $85 a month. I hate having that. I hate WebEx Training. But 20% of our clients only do their stuff in WebEx Training, so it's worth it to have. It's every time I get that bill every month, I'm like, but you know, clients love it, and so we'll do that for them. So Remo, I love it. It's not ready yet for me to bring out to a large number of clients, is my personal opinion. It still has a few bugs. I would say it's only a couple months away from being ready to be potentially the best conferencing platform. It's way better than what most conference things are using. So like Hey Summit is nice. Hey Summit is like a thing that combines with Zoom. So there's a couple of things that like combine with Zoom, but Hey Summit's very linear, and it doesn't really, see you tomorrow, Grace. It doesn't really allow you to nicely mingle, to network, that kind of stuff. Remo's ability to do that is phenomenal. The one killer feature that AirMeet has that Remo doesn't have, I guarantee Remo copies this, is AirMeet has a backstage. So like, for example, if you've got speakers in Remo, they're in the crowd and you can pull them up on stage and they go on stage, but there's no place to go back and talk with them and prep them, like to have like a speakers lounge. AirMeet has a speakers lounge that's backstage where you can be prepping them, having a conversation, then nudge them out on the stage and the networking stops. So I actually prefer AirMeet's features. AirMeet is free right now. It's newer, so it is glitchier, but they are hungry. They have personally said, hey, we'd be happy to co-host sessions with you for free. Wow. So literally AirMeet's staff will, for free, do that for you. So feel free to, I'd say use them both. I'm trying to give big ups to Remo because they are local. But to be honest, they're both pretty awesome.
So are you saying, for example, ATD could have run on Remo or AirMeet? Is that what you're saying?
They should have run on Remo or AirMeet. ATD is, as a note, ATD is, so they're running on Social 27, which ATD is not wild about it. Now, there are some things that Social 27 has that Remo doesn't have. Because it's a 5-day event. It's a 5-day event. So there are some actual things in terms of like microsites. So the microsites feature of which basically all the sponsors have their own microsite. We're a sponsor, so we've got one. That's nice. It's not the prettiest thing in the world. It's kind of an ugly microsite, but the fact that there's like an exhibitor's room there is nice. There's a workaround for doing that in Remo, but it's, I don't know. I think in 3 to 6 months, a lot of these are going to evolve and change in very positive ways. And a lot of the stuff I'm talking about now, it'll appear. Toasty just released a huge user interface update just a day ago, and it's amazing. Okay. It's great. I love their update. It allows you to do things on the fly. I interviewed the CEO of Toasty last week. I'll be posting that interview later. I'm trying to space them out. I've got like 4 or 5 interviews in the backlog. If you really want to see it now, you can go up on the Radically Remote. It's up there already, but it'll be out on the YouTube and stuff in a couple days.
Have you experimented with 3D social spaces like Mozilla
Second
Hubs?
Life? Yeah. Yes. The Mozilla Hubs, Second Life, all those kind of things. We've played with like 2D and 3D kind of things, like the Sokoko and the Workers, which is more the 2D ones, and the 3D ones. Yes, we've experimented with the VR ones. Until everyone has an Oculus, it's just not something. It hasn't reached a tipping point yet. I think it's goddamn fascinating, and there is a lot of stuff where people project idealized versions of themselves into avatars. There's actually, if you know the video game Red Dead Redemption, it's a really famous video game. I don't play it. I've never played it in my life. But there's a really famous Medium article about how one company has actually replaced their Zoom meetings with Red Dead Redemption meetings. So it's like they're actually doing their meetings in a video game because they find it more interesting and more social. I think there's a lot of possibility there.
Yeah. I've tried Mozilla Hubs, but I think it's a navigation that kills it. If it's a 2D.
Yeah, it's shit. It's an experiment.
Yeah, the navigation.
I actually think that massive multiplayer video games like Fortnite or like Red Dead Redemption are much closer to the future for the virtual space. They have done a really good job.
Okay.
And the reason behind that, if you're actually curious, is because what all those video game designers have found is people staying on the video game is directly proportional to how much random and positive interactivity they have with other live players. So getting people to have conversations is what gets them addicted to that game. And the more they have those conversations, the more they stay in that game. So there's a ton of money and science behind that. That's a multi-billion-dollar industry that wants people to have real encounters with human beings. So it's going to be interesting.
I came across a site called Pragly. I don't know whether you've ever heard of them.
What is it?
Pragli. Pragli. And they're quite interesting. They tout that they are the future of remote office working. That's 2D. You have an avatar 2D, but they function like an office because you know when someone is busy, someone is not busy, someone is out. There's all sorts of notifications. So
I've got Pragly. Yes.
Yeah. Is that
I think that I think their interface, I think for an office, I love their interface. It's so pretty looking.
Yeah.
It's I don't know if it would work in a classroom, but oh my God, I completely agree with you. They actually have, for me, they're better than Sokoko. I actually think their interface is gorgeous.
Okay. So you think that could be a better way of working from an office point of view, possibly?
From an office point of view, yeah. From an office, for a virtual office, I think that Sokoko and Pragly, something that creates more of a sense of space, which is exactly what we're talking about tomorrow. I completely agree.
Sokoko, how do you spell that?
Sokoko. Let me just put it in the chat sidebar. I think we linked to it on the Radically Remote thing, but let me just put it in the chat sidebar as well. No, I can do it. Coco. I may have spelled that wrong. Sokoko. Not cheap. So we don't have that. It's like literally for professional offices.
Yeah. Okay. Sokoko.
Yeah, we have no problem spending money on things that are actually awesome and we'll use a lot, or things that our clients require because they like WebEx training. But otherwise we're cheap bastards. So we try to.
Just don't get that anyway.
Yeah, Sokoko looks it's interesting, but it's no. We actually they also don't respond to emails, which is a big turnoff for me. I was like, hey, can I bring people and let them actually come and wander around the rooms? They're like, no answer. Worker added me on LinkedIn, got back to me right away. They're like, because they're hungry for people, they're hungry for clients. It's their software it's a lot of fun, but it's way too glitchy still.
Yeah. Have you looked at this thing called Spatial? Have you seen that before?
Maybe. I think I went through way too many things. Spatial. Yes. So the reason I know is I'm pulling it up on Google, and if it's already purple, it's like I have visited that link. Yes, I've looked at Spatial.
Yeah, the hardware is the issue basically. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, I've never actually played it. What I liked about Spatial is it's got the most convincing looking avatars. It actually starts to look like a person. It looks like,
my colleague has tried it. She finds it really quite amazing,
because it's AR. It's not VR. It's AR, which is it's that AR VR. But I think it's really fascinating. I think give it a couple of years, it'll be amazing.